Welcome back to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited about today's topic because we're going to demystify something that honestly feels like absolute magic, the modern computer processor. I mean, we all carry these supercomputers around in our pockets every single day, but how do they actually work? Well, to truly understand the miracle of a modern CPU, we have to do something kind of radical. We need to slow the whole process down from billions of operations per second to just one. Let's step inside the mind of the machine.
Let's dive right in with a quote that really sets the stage. Computers do not think, they do not guess. You know, it's so tempting to believe our devices are just incredibly smart, like they intuitively understand what we want from them. But the truth is actually way more fascinating, because underneath it all, they are beautifully, perfectly simple. They just follow a really rigid sequence of basic instructions at blinding speeds. There's no intuition here, and absolutely no guessing. It is purely mechanical.
Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Meet the dumb machine. 2. Inside the CPU room. 3. The language of logic. 4. The fetch-execute cycle. 5. Building complex logic. And 6. Mastering the machine.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Meet the Dumb Machine, looking at the von Neumann architecture.
So pretty much every modern computer follows the blueprint you see here. It's known as the von Neumann architecture, or sometimes the stored program concept. Notice the really distinct roles. We've got input and output, which is how it talks to the outside world. We have the processor, the actual brain that fetches and executes the instructions. But the absolutely crucial part is the memory down at the bottom. RAM stores both the instructions, like the program itself, and the raw data, like the numbers it's calculating. Think about how wild that is. The instructions telling the computer what to do and the raw numbers it's working on live inside the exact same memory space. That dual storage concept right there, it's the key to everything we're about to look at.
Moving right along to Part 2, Inside the CPU room. This is our main metaphor.
Imagine we take a modern CPU chip, strip away the silicon and all those microscopic wires, and zoom way in until we find a literal, physical room inside. This is the Little Man computer model. It's an absolutely brilliant conceptual tool because it perfectly mimics a real CPU, just in extreme, manageable slow motion.
Inside this room, we have the little man. He represents our literal sequential processor. And he's got a few really essential tools, so it's important we understand the physical limits of his workspace. First up, notice that wall of 100 mailboxes over there, numbered 00 to 99. That represents our RAM. Next, sitting right on his desk is a calculator. We call this the accumulator, and it is his entire workspace. Finally, he's holding a notepad, which acts as the program counter to track exactly where he is. Now, he follows very strict rules. He processes sequentially, walking from mailbox 00 to 01 to 02. And most importantly, he can only ever do one single thing at a time. No multitasking allowed whatsoever. Because of these strict limits, we really have to make a crucial distinction right off the bat. An address is where something is stored, kind of like a house number, say mailbox 10. But the contents is what is actually stored inside that mailbox. For example, the number 501. Now, our little man does not know the difference between a command he's supposed to run and just a piece of raw data. To him, seeing 501 could mean, hey, load the value from mailbox 01, or it could literally just be the number 501. It's completely up to us, the programmers, to organize the memory so he doesn't get confused.
Zooming in on his desk for a second, I want you to think of the accumulator simply as a basic calculator display. This is the central hub of the entire computer. All the addition, all the subtraction, and every single output command happens exclusively with the value currently showing right here on this little screen.
But our little man has some pretty severe physical constraints when he's using this calculator. First, single storage. It holds exactly one value at a time. That's it. Second, it has a totally overwrite nature. The exact moment he loads a new value onto that screen, the old one is destroyed instantly and forever. There's no undo button here. And third, think of the hands analogy. The little man cannot add a number while it's sitting all the way over in a mailbox. He physically has to walk over, get it, pick it up, and load it into the accumulator first before he can do any math with it.
Which brings us to Section 3, the language of logic. How do we actually teach this worker? Since he's so incredibly literal, how do we tell him what to do? Well, the little man understands a very specific 3-digit code. Whenever he sees a number, he splits it in his head. Take the instruction 512, for example.
The 5 is the opcode telling him the action, in this case, load. And the 12 is the operand, basically the specific mailbox address he needs to walk over to. Let's just quickly walk through the basic commands. INP grabs user input and pushes it to the calculator. Out takes whatever is on the calculator and pushes it to the output tray. LDA loads a copy from a mailbox and brings it to the calculator. And STA saves a copy from the calculator back to a specific mailbox. It's really just simple, direct routing.
All right, part 4, the fetch execute cycle. Let's see this machine in motion.
The little man operates in this continuous, absolutely unwavering loop called the fetch execute cycle. Here's how it goes. First, he checks his notepad for his current address and physically walks to that specific mailbox to fetch the instruction. Second, he decodes that 3-digit number into an action he actually understands. Third, he executes the action, whether that means doing some math or just moving data around the room. And fourth, he updates his notepad by adding 1 to it, so he knows exactly where he needs to go next.
Fetch, decode, execute, update. I know, it really looks like a lot of steps for a super simple task, right? But remember, while we're moving in slow motion to understand the raw mechanics here, this exact sequence is happening for every single instruction, literally billions of times a second, in the CPU you're using to watch this explainer right now. It's mind-blowing.
Let's move to Section 5, Building Complex Logic, taking it from individual steps to actual programs.
So let's see how we string these tiny steps together. This is linear processing. The little man walks from mailbox 00 to 01 to 02, executing his instructions. But I want you to notice that red barrier at mailbox 04. That is the HLT, or halt, command. This is absolutely critical. We always put our raw data variables after the halt command. And why is that? Because if there's no barrier there, our very literal little worker is just going to keep walking right past the instructions, pick up your raw data, assume it's a command, try to execute it, and just entirely crash the system. Okay, so we've got a system that just walks in a straight line doing basic math, routing numbers, and stopping at a barrier. But that brings up a pretty massive question. How on earth do we get a completely literal straight-line machine to actually make dynamic decisions? Like, how do we build an if this, then that scenario out of this?
Well, the secret answer is branching. Take a look at the BRZ command, which stands for branch if 0. Think of this as a gatekeeper. When the little man hits a BRZ command, he instantly looks down at his calculator display. Follow that red yes arrow for a second. If the accumulator is exactly 0, he is allowed to jump his notepad to a totally different address, entirely skipping over chunks of the code. Now look at the no arrow. Else, if it's literally anything other than 0, he ignores the branch completely and just moves to the next sequential line like normal. He's making a crucial yes or no decision, but it's based entirely on the mathematical state of his calculator. By combining that branching with loops, we unlock the whole shebang. Think about it. How does a computer actually check if variable A equals variable B? It can't intuitively just see equality like we can. Instead, it does A minus B. Because if you subtract B from A and the result is exactly 0, well, they must be the exact same number. And if they're the same, the BRZ instruction triggers the jump. This brilliant little trick, using subtraction for comparison, is literally the foundational basis of all CPU logic. Finally, Section 6, Mastering the Machine. Debugging and bringing it all together.
When you're writing code and managing all these branches, constantly overriding variables, you cannot just guess what's happening. You have to write it down. By using a trace table to systematically track the exact state of the accumulator and your variables after every single instruction, you avoid the common pitfalls. The absolute biggest trap? Accumulator clobbering. That's when you accidentally forget that using an input or a load command instantly wipes out the precious data you were just working on in the calculator. A trace table stops that from happening.
So to wrap this up, here are the golden rules of the machine. And honestly, these are really the rules for learning how to think like a machine. Rule 1. It is sequential. It moves straight ahead unless you actively force a branch. Rule 2. It is destructive. Loading data overwrites all data instantly. Rule 3. It is literal. Any data left in its path of execution will be treated as an instruction. Learning to think precisely, logically, and sequentially, that's the real superpower you're building here.
I really want to leave you with a thought today. If the absolute most complex computer logic we know, video games, artificial intelligence, operating systems, if all of that is ultimately just an illusion built on a worker doing simple subtraction, routing numbers around, and checking if a calculator reads 0, well, what else in our digital world is really just a variation of the little man in a room? I think it completely changes how you look at the devices we use every single day. Thank you so much for diving into the CPU with me. Keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next explainer.